Middle-earth, often viewed as a self-contained world, is in fact a small part of a vast creation crafted by J.R.R. Tolkien. To truly grasp the full scope of Tolkien's work, it is essential to understand that Middle-earth is just one region within Arda, which itself belongs to a larger universe called Ea. Arda is not merely a fantastical setting, but a meticulously constructed world with intricate histories, cosmology, and languages. Ea, the universe in which Arda exists, was created by Eru Ilúvatar, the supreme being in Tolkien's mythology. He brought Ea into existence through the music of the Ainur, powerful spiritual beings who, like the Greek or Norse gods, played a role in shaping the cosmos. One of the most fundamental aspects of Tolkien's creation is the distinction between Arda and Middle-earth. Middle-earth is often mischaracterized as a separate planet or world, similar to other fantasy universes like Narnia. However, Tolkien intended Middle-earth to be a mythical, ancient version of our own world, specifically an earlier, more enchanted version of Europe. This connection to our world is crucial in understanding the depth of Tolkien's legendarium. Middle-earth is not some far-off magical realm detached from human history, but rather an ancient stage upon which humanity's early mythological stories unfold. The very name Middle-earth is rooted in ancient linguistic traditions. It comes from the Old English term Middangeard, which referred to the mortal world, the realm of men, situated between heaven and the underworld in Germanic and Norse mythology. This linguistic origin reflects Tolkien's scholarly expertise and the way he incorporated ancient mythological ideas into his writing. His work was heavily influenced by his love of languages, philology, and European mythologies. The choice to ground Middle-earth in these ancient traditions lends a sense of historical realism and cultural depth to his fictional world, making it feel as though Middle-earth could have been a real place in the distant past. Tolkien's cosmology extends far beyond Middle-earth. Arda, the world that includes Middle-earth, is home to a variety of other lands, realms, and continents. Some of these, like Aman, the land of the Valar, the godlike beings, play crucial roles in the broader narrative, particularly in the Silmarillion. The idea that Middle-earth is only one part of a larger universe helps clarify the fact that it is not an isolated magical land. Instead, it exists within a much larger and interconnected cosmology filled with divine beings, otherworldly powers, and histories that stretch back to the very creation of the world. This intricate layering of mythology, history, and geography adds profound depth to Tolkien's world-building, making Middle-earth far more than just the setting for a fantasy story. Before Middle-earth became the stage for the epic tales of elves, men, and other races, the world was shaped by powerful divine beings known as the Valar. These beings were created by Eru Ilúvatar, and their role was to govern and prepare the world for the coming of the children of Ilúvatar, elves and men. The Valar were not merely passive overseers, they actively shaped the world, raising mountains, filling seas, and creating the landscapes that would later become home to the inhabitants of Middle-earth. The Valar, much like the Olympian gods of Greek mythology, had specific roles and domains within Arda. For instance, Manwë, the chief of the Valar, was the ruler of the skies and winds, while Aule was associated with craftsmanship and creation. Each Valar contributed to the shaping of the world in their own way, and their influence can be felt throughout Middle-earth's history. The creation of the sun and moon, the raising of mountains, and the filling of seas were all part of their efforts to prepare Arda for the coming of the elves and men. However, the Valar were not the only powerful beings involved in the shaping of the world. Alongside them were the Maiar, lesser spiritual beings who served the Valar. Some of these Maiar would play crucial roles in the history of Middle-earth, most notably Sauron, who served Aule before being corrupted by Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. The Valar and Maiar represent a divine hierarchy within Tolkien's universe, and their actions directly influence the history and development of Middle-earth. Despite their immense power, the Valar eventually withdrew from direct involvement in Middle-earth's affairs. After the defeat of Morgoth at the end of the First Age, they retreated to their distant land of Valinor, a paradise located far to the west of Middle-earth. Valinor is often confused with an afterlife or heaven, but it is a physical place within Arda, though inaccessible to most mortals. The decision of the Valar to withdraw marked a significant shift in the governance of Middle-earth. From that point on, the free peoples of Middle-earth, elves, men, dwarves, and others, were largely left to fend for themselves against the rising threat of Sauron. Valinor itself, while physically distant from Middle-earth, remains an essential part of Tolkien's mythology. It is the land where the Valar reside, along with many of the elves who departed from Middle-earth. It is a place of peace, beauty, and immortality, untouched by the corruption and violence that often plague Middle-earth. Yet, despite its beauty, Valinor is not entirely removed from the events of Middle-earth. The elves who left Middle-earth for Valinor still maintain a spiritual connection to their former home, and the Valar, though distant, continue to watch over the world, occasionally intervening in critical moments. The relationship between elves and dwarves is one of the most complex and misunderstood aspects of Tolkien's world. While many readers view these two races as eternal enemies, their history is far more nuanced. The common perception of animosity between elves and dwarves often stems from specific, well-known conflicts, such as the tale of the Noglamir. This legendary necklace, crafted by dwarves and set with one of the Silmarils, jewels of immense power created by the elf Fëanor, became the center of a bitter dispute. The elven king Thingol of Doriath commissioned the dwarves of Nogrod to set the Silmaril into the Nauglamir, but tensions arose over its ownership. The dwarves, feeling entitled to the necklace they had crafted, clashed with Thingol, leading to his murder and a devastating war between the dwarves of Nogrod and the elves of Doriath. This event left a deep scar on both peoples, cementing a distrust that would last for many ages. The memory of this conflict became a symbol of the tensions between elves and dwarves, but it does not tell the whole story. Despite these early conflicts, there were numerous instances of collaboration and friendship between elves and dwarves, particularly in times of great need. One of the most notable examples comes from the Second Age, during the founding of the great elven city of Eregion. The elves of Eregion, led by Celebrimbor, worked closely with the dwarves of Khazad-dûm, later known as Moria, during a period of remarkable cooperation and mutual respect. Together, they crafted many wonders, including the Rings of Power. This partnership highlights the potential for unity between the two races when they set aside their differences. It is also important to recognize that while cultural and ideological differences existed between elves and dwarves, these differences did not always lead to conflict. The dwarves were known for their focus on craftsmanship, mining, and the practical aspects of creation, while the elves were drawn to beauty, preservation, and the spiritual aspects of the world. These differences could complement one another, as seen in their collaboration on the creation of the Rings of Power. The elves and dwarves, though different in many ways, were able to work together toward a common goal when the need arose. Individual friendships between elves and dwarves also defy the stereotype of eternal enmity. The most famous of these is the bond between Legolas, an elf of Mirkwood, and Gimli, a dwarf of the Lonely Mountain. Their deep friendship, which blossomed over the course of The Lord of the Rings, serves as a powerful counterpoint to the long history of mistrust between their peoples. By the end of their journey, Gimli and Legolas had developed not only mutual respect, but a profound camaraderie. Their relationship demonstrates that individuals can transcend the prejudices of their cultures and find common ground. The One Ring, central to the story of The Lord of the Rings, is often misunderstood in terms of its powers and limitations. Many believe it to be an artifact of unlimited power, capable of granting its bearer near godlike abilities. While the ring is indeed a formidable weapon, its true nature is more subtle and insidious. It was created by Sauron during the Second Age, forged in the fires of Mount Doom, as a means to control the other rings of power, and by extension, the beings who wore them. The rings of power were crafted by the elven smiths of a region under Sauron's influence, though the elves were unaware of his true identity at the time. Sauron's goal was to use the One Ring to dominate the minds of the elves, dwarves, and men who bore the other rings. However, the elves, sensing his treachery, removed their rings, thwarting his initial plan. Despite this setback, the One Ring remained a powerful tool of domination, particularly over men, who were more susceptible to its influence. One of the most common misconceptions about the One Ring is that it grants its wearer unlimited physical power, or the ability to perform feats of unimaginable strength. In reality, the ring's primary power is domination, specifically over the wills of others. It enhances the innate qualities of its bearer, magnifying their desires and ambitions, but it does not make them invincible. For example, while the ring grants invisibility, this is not an inherent ability of the ring itself, but rather a byproduct of the bearer slipping partially into the unseen world, the realm of spirits and wraiths. The ring's true danger lies in its ability to corrupt and control, particularly over those who are already vulnerable to its influence. It is most seductive to individuals with great ambition or desire for power. Boromir, for instance, sees the ring as a tool to defend Gondor, while Saruman seeks it for his own designs of domination. However, it is important to note that the ring cannot force someone to act against their will. Its influence is gradual and insidious, wearing down the resolve of its bearer over time. Another common misconception is that the ring can be used by anyone to overthrow Sauron. While it is true that the ring contains a significant portion of Sauron's power, it is bound to him in a way that makes it nearly impossible for anyone else to wield it without becoming a servant of its true master. When Sauron forged the ring, he poured much of his own essence into it, meaning that any attempt to use the ring's power would inevitably draw the user into Sauron's control. Even powerful beings like Gandalf or Galadriel recognized that using the ring would lead to corruption, as the desire for domination would eventually take over. Sauron, the primary antagonist of the Lord of the Rings, is often regarded as the ultimate villain of Middle-earth, but this perception is somewhat misleading when one considers the full scope of Tolkien's legendarium. Sauron, while certainly a formidable and dangerous figure, was not the original Dark Lord of Middle-earth. That title belongs to Morgoth, the first and far more powerful dark power who shaped much of the early history of Arda. Morgoth, originally known as Melkor, was one of the Ainur, the powerful spiritual beings created by Eru Ilúvatar before the beginning of time. While most of the Ainur participated in the shaping and governing of the world according to Ilúvatar's design, Melkor rebelled against this order. He was the most powerful of the Ainur, greater than any of the others, and he sought to bend all creation to his will. He introduced discord into the very music that shaped the world, seeking to impose his own vision of domination. When Melkor descended into Arda, along with the other Ainur who became known as the Valar, his goal was to seize control of the world. Over time, he gathered followers, including many of the Maiar, the lesser Ainur. One of these was Sauron. Sauron, originally a Maiar of Aule, the Valar associated with craftsmanship and creation, was seduced by Melkor's vision of power and domination. Under Morgoth's influence, Sauron became one of his chief lieutenants, serving as his most trusted and capable servant throughout the First Age. Morgoth's reign of terror was far more extensive than anything Sauron accomplished in later ages. Morgoth waged countless wars against the elves, dwarves, and men, bringing ruin to vast regions of Middle-earth. His might was such that he corrupted many beings to his cause, from the great dragons and balrogs to entire kingdoms of men. Unlike Sauron, who relied heavily on deception and manipulation, Morgoth wielded raw power, often directly engaging in battles and destroying vast armies with his personal might. He even defied the Valar themselves, causing immense destruction before he was finally overthrown at the end of the First Age. The relationship between Sauron and Morgoth is crucial to understanding Sauron's motives and methods. While Sauron was undoubtedly evil in his own right, his character was shaped by his service to Morgoth. Sauron's ambitions were, in some ways, an extension of Morgoth's original desire for domination. However, where Morgoth sought control through sheer force, Sauron favored more subtle methods. Sauron became a master of deception, using his powers to manipulate and corrupt, rather than to simply destroy. His creation of the One Ring, for instance, was a prime example of his cunning, as it was designed to secretly dominate the wearers of the other rings of power, bending them to his will without their knowledge. Despite his cunning, Sauron never approached the level of raw power that Morgoth wielded. Morgoth's influence was so profound that he permanently altered the fabric of Arda. His essence became woven into the world itself, which is why even after his defeat and banishment to the Void, the scars of his evil remained. Sauron, in contrast, was more limited in scope. His power was immense, particularly after the creation of the One Ring, but it was not bound into the very essence of the world in the way Morgoth's was. Sauron's power was concentrated in his ability to dominate others, and much of it was lost when the ring was destroyed. Ultimately, while Sauron is a terrifying figure in the Third Age, his evil pales in comparison to the cosmic threat that Morgoth represented in the early history of Middle-earth. Morgoth's influence shaped the entire world, and even after his defeat, his legacy continued to haunt Arda through the corruption he left behind. Sauron, though formidable, was in many ways a shadow of his former master, seeking to continue Morgoth's work of domination, but lacking the overwhelming might that made Morgoth such an existential threat to all of creation. One of the most enduring and popular questions among fans of The Lord of the Rings is why the eagles, with their great power and swiftness, were not simply used to carry the One Ring directly to Mount Doom, bypassing the long and perilous journey that Frodo and the Fellowship undertook. On the surface, this seems like an elegant and practical solution. After all, the eagles are depicted as mighty and intelligent beings, capable of flight and powerful enough to evade or battle enemies. The logic appears simple. Why not entrust these noble creatures with the task of destroying the ring, thus avoiding the dangers that came with a ground journey? However, this idea, while appealing, overlooks several critical aspects of Tolkien's world, both in terms of the eagle's nature, Sauron's power, and the broader themes of the story. The first and most important aspect to understand is the true nature of the eagles in Tolkien's mythology. The eagles are not just oversized, powerful birds. They are a race of sentient, noble beings created by the Valar, specifically by Manwë, the Lord of the Skies and Winds. Manwë, as the highest of the Valar and closest to Ilúvatar's will, created the eagles to serve as his eyes and ears in Middle-earth, watching over the land and reporting on significant events. The eagles, therefore, are not mere beasts of burden or transportation devices. They are divine emissaries, beings with their own purpose and independence. Their actions, while helpful to the free peoples of Middle-earth, are often guided by the will of higher powers and not by the demands of mortal creatures. The eagle's role in the history of Middle-earth is marked by their intervention in critical moments, often appearing to aid in the most desperate of times, such as when they rescue Gandalf from Orthanc or swoop down in the final battle at the Black Gate. However, they are not at the beck and call of the protagonists, and their assistance is always presented as a kind of divine intervention rather than a tool to be used at will. This is a crucial point that explains why the eagles could not have been used to carry the ring to Mount Doom. Their role in the story is not one of direct, proactive involvement in mortal affairs, but rather one of occasional intervention when the situation is most dire. They are not bound to serve the free peoples of Middle-earth in a straightforward, logistical manner. They answer to the greater forces of the universe and act when it aligns with a higher purpose. This leads to the second important factor. The eagle's intervention is restricted by the larger spiritual and cosmological forces at play in Tolkien's world. The Valar, who created and govern Arda from their distant realm of Valinor, are no longer directly involved in the affairs of Middle-earth by the time of the Third Age. After the catastrophic events of the First Age, in which the Valar intervened to defeat Morgoth, they adopted a more hands-off approach to Middle-earth, leaving its fate largely in the hands of the free peoples, elves, men, dwarves, and hobbits. The eagles, as emissaries of Manwë, are bound by this same restriction. They cannot act as simple agents of mortal will, especially when it comes to something as significant as the destruction of the One Ring, which is tied to the deepest metaphysical struggles of the world. Destroying the ring is a task that belongs to the children of Ilúvatar, the free peoples of Middle-earth, and not to the divine beings like the eagles or the Valar. There is also a more practical in-world explanation for why the eagles could not simply fly the ring to Mount Doom. Mordor, far from being an unguarded or easily accessible land, is one of the most heavily fortified and well-defended regions in Middle-earth. Sauron, the Dark Lord, has concentrated all of his power in Mordor, and his eye, both metaphorically and literally, constantly watches over his domain. The Eye of Sauron, symbolized by the fiery, all-seeing eye atop Barad-dûr, represents his ability to perceive and sense any threats to his dominion, particularly anything related to the One Ring. The moment the eagles entered Mordor's airspace, Sauron's forces would have been alerted, and the response would have been immediate and overwhelming. In addition to the Eye of Sauron, the Nazgûl, Sauron's most fearsome servants, are mounted on terrifying winged beasts, which make them a significant aerial threat. The Nazgûl, being bound to the ring, would be drawn to it instinctively, sensing its presence the closer it came to Sauron. These wraiths are not only formidable fighters, but also relentless hunters. If the eagles had attempted to fly the ring into Mordor, they would have been intercepted by the Nazgûl, who, being creatures of the air themselves, would have had the advantage of numbers and power. The eagles, despite their strength, would have been hard-pressed to reach Mount Doom unscathed, especially with the Eye of Sauron fixed upon them and his most fearsome servants in pursuit. The geography of Mordor itself presents additional challenges. Mount Doom, located in the heart of Mordor, is surrounded by a desolate, heavily patrolled region known as the Gorgoroth. This barren wasteland is filled with Sauron's armies, orc strongholds, and watchtowers, all designed to prevent any intruder from reaching the mountain. Even if the eagles could evade the Nazgûl, they would still have to navigate this treacherous terrain, avoiding detection from the ground forces that constantly patrol the region. The entrance to Mount Doom is deep within Sauron's most guarded territory, and the eagles, despite their power, would have faced overwhelming danger on all sides. Beyond the practical and military reasons, there is a deeper thematic reason why the eagles could not have been used to simply fly the ring to Mount Doom. Tolkien's works are deeply rooted in themes of perseverance, sacrifice, and the triumph of the small and unassuming over great evil. The destruction of the One Ring is not meant to be a straightforward or easy task. It is a burden that must be borne by the most unlikely of heroes, Frodo Baggins, a humble hobbit from the Shire. The long and arduous journey to Mount Doom, with all its perils and challenges, is central to the moral and spiritual core of the story. It represents the struggle of ordinary individuals against overwhelming evil, the power of friendship and fellowship, and the importance of free will and moral choice in the face of temptation. The eagles, while powerful and awe-inspiring, would undermine these central themes if they were used to bypass the journey of the ring-bearer. The story of the Lord of the Rings is not about finding the easiest or most efficient solution to the problem of the ring. It is about the personal growth, sacrifice, and resilience required to confront evil. Frodo's journey, along with Sam's unwavering loyalty, is a testament to the strength of the small and seemingly insignificant individuals in the fight against darkness. The eagles swooping in to deliver the ring would reduce the epic and transformative journey of the ring-bearer to a mere logistical problem, stripping the narrative of its emotional and thematic weight. Furthermore, the eagles are not the protagonists of this story. While they serve a noble and essential role in the broader context of Middle-earth, they are not meant to be the ones to destroy the ring. Their interventions are moments of divine guidance, not of direct participation in the fulfillment of the story's ultimate task. The destruction of the ring required the courage, endurance, and free will of the free peoples of Middle-earth, particularly the hobbits, whose unassuming nature and resistance to the corrupting power of the ring made them the ideal bearers of this heavy burden. The eagles, as grand and powerful as they are, could not bear the same moral or symbolic significance in this context. In conclusion, the notion of using the eagles to fly the One Ring to Mount Doom, while appealing to some fans, fundamentally misunderstands both the nature of the eagles and the deeper themes of the Lord of the Rings. The eagles, while powerful, are not all-powerful, nor are they simple instruments of transportation. Their role in Tolkien's world is one of divine intervention, governed by higher forces and the will of the Valar. Moreover, the practical realities of Sauron's dominion, his watchful eye, the Nazgul, and the fortified nature of Mordor, make such a plan highly improbable. But perhaps most importantly, the thematic heart of Tolkien's work lies in the perseverance and sacrifice of the free peoples, particularly the smallest and most unlikely of heroes. The long and difficult journey to destroy the ring is central to the story's exploration of courage, friendship, and moral choice. The eagles, by providing an easy solution, would undermine this rich narrative, turning a tale of personal growth and struggle into a mere exercise in strategic planning. Tolkien's world, with all its complexity and nuance, resists such simplistic solutions, reminding readers that the greatest victories are often achieved through endurance, sacrifice, and the courage of those who seem least likely to succeed. In considering the broader implications of using the eagles, it becomes clear that their occasional interventions are part of a larger, more complex story of fate, divine will, and the struggle against evil. Their role is not to take over the responsibility that belongs to the free peoples, but to aid them in moments of extreme need. The destruction of the ring, as the culmination of the free people's resistance to Sauron, was always meant to be a task borne by the humble and the brave, those who chose to stand against darkness despite the overwhelming odds. In looking at the conclusion of The Lord of the Rings, we see that the story is far more than just a battle between good and evil or a quest to destroy a powerful artifact. It is a story deeply intertwined with the themes of hope, sacrifice, and the enduring strength of the human spirit and the hobbit spirit. Frodo, Sam, Aragorn, and the rest of the Fellowship represent the diverse races and cultures of Middle-earth, each bringing their unique strengths and weaknesses to the task at hand. Their journey is a reflection of the larger struggle for freedom, self-determination, and the triumph of the small over the great. The final destruction of the One Ring, accomplished not through sheer force or cunning, but through Frodo's personal sacrifice and the unexpected intervention of Gollum, speaks to the complexity of Tolkien's vision of good and evil. The ring, with its corrupting influence, could not be destroyed by anyone seeking power, and even Frodo, in his final moments, could not fully resist its pull. Yet, it is through the interplay of fate, free will, and unexpected grace that the ring is finally unmade. This conclusion highlights one of Tolkien's most profound messages, that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, there is always hope, often found in the most unlikely places and individuals. Thus, the story of the Lord of the Rings is one that resists simple solutions and easy answers. It is a tale of deep moral complexity, where the smallest actions can have the greatest consequences, and where victory is achieved not through might or magic, but through the courage and perseverance of ordinary people and hobbits. The eagles, while majestic and powerful, are not the central heroes of this story. Instead, they serve as a reminder that even in the grandest of epics, the true power lies in the hands of those who choose to act with courage, wisdom, and love in the face of darkness.